Hip, hip, hooray for DNA. It provides the key to the plans for making everything in you and me.
Welcome to one of the past HSC exam question videos from the Blueprint of Life module. While doing this video, we'll cover this question, which comes from the Blueprint of Life module, and more specifically the Inheritance chapter of the Blueprint of Life module. While doing a second, I'll read the actual question. Once I've read the question, you get about 5 seconds to pause the video. Once I've paused the video, attempt the question, and when we're ready, press play, and I'll go over the actual answer itself. So this is the question. A plant species may have red or white flowers. 2 red flowered plants were crossed. Most of the offspring had red flowers, but some had white flowers. Explain the presence of both red and white flowered offspring. And that's worth 3 marks. So when you're ready, pause the video and attempt the question, and then press play when you're done. Welcome back. As for this question, you should realize it's worth 3 marks, and it's asking you to explain. So what we have to do, we have to say that there are these red flowers that were crossed. So 2 red flowers were crossed with a phenotype of red, and that produced mostly red, but some white. So you should first of all say that red would stand for R, capital R would stand for red, and small r would stand for white. And the reason why is because this is a dominant recessive relationship. So dominant and recessive. And then what you do is you say that if 2 heterozygous reds were crossed, then we would get a 3-to-1 ratio of red to white. So the majority would be red and the minority would be white. And that's what would have happened in this case. That's the explaining part as well. And you can use a Punnett square to explain that further. That's also what I did in this case. So in this case, if you get these kind of questions, it's often good to draw a Punnett square just to show that you know what you're doing. The first part I talked about was red flowers are dominant. So I said that dominant means capital R over white flowers, which are small. When a homozygous red flower is crossed with a homozygous white flower, then heterozygous red flowers are produced. So these R flowers are the ones which we would have had in our actual cross. It's saying that 2 red flowers were crossed, and it's most likely that we had 2 heterozygous red flowers that were crossed to give us that 3-to-1 ratio. That's what I said first, that if we have homozygous ones, we can produce heterozygous ones, and thereby, if we cross those, we will have our white-red ratio. And I'll say that now in the second bit. So when a heterozygous red flower are crossed, then the majority of offspring will be red, while some will still be white. And this is what here, this is flower number 1. So this is the heterozygous flower number 1, capital R and small r. And this is heterozygous number 2, capital R and small r. If you cross them, you have this one being red, this one being red, and this one being red, because they have the R in each of them, the capital R, which is always dominant, and this one being white, because it's homozygous white. And that's what I've written in the final part, just summarizing this Punnett square. There is a 3-to-1 phenotype ratio. That's phenotype is the appearance, how they look like. So 3 of them are red, and 1 of them is white. There's a 3-to-1 phenotype ratio of red to white flowers that results from this cross, and a 1 to 2 to 1 homozygous green heterozygous. So 1 is homozygous green, 2 are heterozygous red. Actually, I don't know why I used green here. I confused myself. This is not supposed to be green. So this is supposed to be R, small r, and 2 small r's. So this means 1 is homozygous red, 2 are heterozygous red, and 1 is homozygous white. That's the genotype. It's not asking for genotype, but I just mention that as well, just because I can. The most important part is that you have that Punnett, like maybe Punnett square. You explained that if you crossed 2 heterozygous red flowers, we get a phenotype ratio of 3-to-1. Therefore, the majority of our flowers will be red, have a red phenotype, but there will be some white as well. And that would have given you your answer. So in this case, we've got 1 for just mentioning the fact that there's one dominant of the other, so there's dominant recessive relationship. then 1 for correctly saying that, you have 2 heterozygous red flowers, which will give you your 3:1 ratio. And then also for just mentioning that the 3:1 ratio is a result of that cross, and that gives you get your marks for mentioning that, and maybe also having a Punnett square as well. And that's your 3 marks out of 3. And where did that question come from? It came from these 2 dot points. So distinguish between homozygous and heterozygous genotypes in monohybrid crosses. So here we had to know about homozygous and heterozygous genotypes. And also here the other one was describe outcomes of monohybrid crosses involving simple dominance using Mendel's explanations. So this was more or less a simple dominance version of that monohybrid cross. And we can use Mendel's explanation of that 3:1 ratio and the F1 generation being crossed to produce that result. I hope that was useful.
Thank you for watching.